All right. Happy Friday to all you devils out there. Sam here with you. Whoa, it's the the 16th of July here, about noon for me here in Austin. Which, of course, we're going to dig into Bitcoin. So I think today we're going to go full metal jacket on Elliott here, because for a couple of reasons. One, it's kind of a challenging count. Two, something doesn't smell right to me here. So let me expand on what I mean by that. So looking here at the larger degree here, this seems to be the larger count that makes the most sense here. Now, given where we are, per the prior swings, right? So if it's 1, 2, 3, and we're working for the 4, well, if we're going to come down to the lower edge of to the lower median line here, it would suggest, well, we'd have perfect symmetry, right? Then so we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. We wouldn't overlap the 1. Here's the 2017 pivot. It would just be technically perfect. But you got to look at where we are now and say, okay, how are we going to get there? So while, of course, Elliott is always just a snapshot in time where you're working through probabilities of patterns that tend to repeat, and of course it can change easily. But as we sit here right now, this looks a little fishy to me. So in general, if we consider the broad space of crypto, it's very bearish, right? So there's a general malaise in the market. There's a lack of interest. Yeah, we see it amongst our members. People are, making changes or sitting on the sidelines. So it makes me think, right? If the market is that bearish, piques my interest in alternate counts here. So the general consensus, I think, most Elliotticians, I think, would be looking at this as 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, are we going down to get an extension in the 5th, which would be the implication here? If this, and we'll break this down. But if this is 4 and we're going to head lower for a 5, even here let's go to the 2017 pivot. If that completes the extension in the 5, well, then we'd be thinking 3 in the B here. We can use this prior structure here. Seems a reasonable target. But now we'd be coming down something like this. Well, we'd be breaking the 17 high, perhaps going down here to challenge the 50. We certainly wouldn't want to see it overlap that wave 1. So then you'd be looking, if we just stay with the geometry, something like this. So now we're out into September of 22. It just, oh shit, hang on. Ninja alert's firing. It doesn't smell right to me. I just do not think that's the path we're on. It doesn't look right. Okay, that's easy to say, right? It doesn't look right, But let's go in a little bit deeper here. Now, so a couple of things to note here. Here, let's see. If we go down to a 4-hour here, I've got another count here. I've got it with a little more detail. If we just look at it here, if it's 1 here, I guess we can take this off. If it's 1, 2, 3, and all of this sideways chop here, and this gets a little tricky here, there's probably a triangle in there. Either way, right? It doesn't really matter here. We get to a 4. Well, we get 5 down here. Well, so the general thinking has been, okay, 1. Well, clearly that's a 3. So off we go into our impulsive 3rd of the 5th. Well, I don't care how you look at that. This is not impulsive. Sure. Well, here, let's zoom in. Okay, so what can we say with objectivity? Okay, we got a continued series here of lower lows and lower highs. Okay, yeah, I'm with you on that, right? I don't disagree here. So certainly the short-term trend is down here. But if it's 1, 2, well, there's no way to count this as an impulse, right? It's not an impulse. So we'd have to consider a couple of alternatives here, and they're so very bearish. It just doesn't feel right to me. So what would be the alternate here? We're going to go 1, 2, and then we'd have to put these down here. That's probably too big. break that out. Oh, let's go to sub. Okay, so we're going to go 1, 2. Well, okay, that might work. So I can see a contender for 5 here. Okay, it's a little thin, but I can get a 3 into that too. Well, okay, well then I go right into another 3. So what am I going to do? A 1, 2 yet again. So that would be 1, 2. Well, so look what we'd have. We'd have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Right? It's so very bearish that I just don't buy it. I don't think we're going that low. Now, of course, I say I don't think. Of course, we could. It just doesn't look right to me. So this count, the perception here that we've got 1, A, B, C, obvious, oh, clear, okay, 2, is breaking down. I don't think that's what we're seeing here. So I think as Elliottians here, we can look at this and say, well, okay, well, it's technical, right? I mean, there's some technical trading in here. We look here, right? We came right to the golden zone here. This was technical as well. Here, if I go down to a 60, right, we had this was a perfect 50 here. So, oh God, come here. Oh, we got this was here, right? Came right to a 50. Now here's the first algo target here from here getting hit, right? And it looks like it's a little bit of a front run. That's a bit far for a front run here. Oh, let's tighten this up. All right, so we break here, of course, right? So here's the second one. So if I get that right on there, oh, we're a little shy of the golden zone. But coming down here, we got target. So there's one that hits. Then we get another one here to the 50. That's a little far for a front run. So possibly something turning around. But let's see if we can put an Elliott count on this. So I'm going to come back here and where I've got a little more detail. Now, a couple of things here. So first, I thought we'd start out here to daily. Now I'm over here on Bybit, and I've just switched to that. A lot of my members are trading over here on Bybit. A lot of you guys are over here, so I thought I would just kind of put this into the mix. Now, of course, we don't get as much history here on the perpetual contract, but we can certainly work through what the detail here. So note here, we've been in a squeeze, right? As you guys will recall, I mentioned this previously here. If you look on the daily, a squeeze here is relatively unusual, right? When we don't get many, right, on the daily. So the length of this squeeze here, we come out of the squeeze, we go into yet another squeeze here, and now we've just inched out of that here in this last little move down. Well, this count is definitely complex here. So the first part of it, very easy. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, all right, so are we done here, or is 5 got to go much lower here? I think there's a reasonable case that this first 5 is completed here, and we're working through the correction of that 5. So, oh, let me take this down a degree. Or let's go to minuet. Oh, wrong one. Let's go. That's what I want. Okay, so now I think this plays a little bit better. If indeed the 5 completes here, then, and again, I know you can't see in there. I just want to give you the bigger picture here. If this is A, we're looking for B, and then we're looking for C to complete this correction. Now, here we are. This would be, oh, there's 19.8, right? So that would be right in line with the 2017 pivot high. This starts to make a little more sense to me. If it's A, B, and then we're going to look for 5 down, we are going to break these lows. We're going to come down here, we'll challenge the 2017 pivot high. Just structurally, that's a reasonable place for us to be targeting. So that puts us, oh, well, if we round it to 20K. Now, if we come back here, oh shit, hang on. Where was I? Yeah, it's this one. Yeah, I got to go back to the daily. Here. Okay, so here's the 20K right here. Here's the 1920K. So it implies we might come down here and now hold the 38. All right, that being our 2017 pivot low. Now, now note here, if we pivot here, we're not going to make the lower median line. But you'll also note we didn't make the upper median line here. So if we're going to be contained inside of this set of median lines here, wouldn't be surprising here to have that equality here. So if we come back here, of course we have this structure here. We got a little high volume here that's very thin. So if it starts to roll over down here, there's not a lot of support because we went up so fast. So that being said, I think the idea that the A is complete and we're seeking the B now here, this would all just play better to get the B up here at the median line, and then we'd come down, so the A would be in here, and the C would be coming down here, would give us our 4, if this all completes here, and not quite making the lower parallel. right? And kind of keying off the fact we didn't make it there. So I see this 21 to 19 and change as a very reasonable target. And if it gets there, that's a place to, well, I would certainly be aggressive there right now. So let's break in a little bit further to this. Let me go back to the perpetual contract here, just having noted this. Now, this gets complex here, and this is not an easy, let's get rid of that. This is not an easy count. So what I do here when I've got a count that's this unclear is really the same thing that I think so many of our members do here. I reach out to the community. So in my case, I reach out to Sensei Tutum, who's a level 2 certified Elliottician, and he just happened to be online, so I could go back and forth with him. And between the two of us, we looked at all the possible scenarios here, and while there is an alternate here, this seems to be the most likely. Now, I'm going to hide the order block here, so let's hide that here. And we'll just go through a couple of things here. You see, now, I go back and forth with Sensei Tutum, but I think what I wanted to emphasize there is that I think that's the reason that so many members stay with us. It's not because they love me or they love my analysis. It's the community where you have so many like-minded traders that are analyzing the market in the same way, looking for trade setups, looking for counts that are valid per rule set and guidelines. And having that, hundreds and hundreds of other traders to refer to and look at their input and what are they thinking, and level 2 certified senseis to check with, as I did today. I think that's the real value. So I just remind you guys that you can get into the Discord and start engaging with the community. It's free. Right? You also get access to the whiteboard. If you want to go a little further and use this time as the market is essentially going sideways to lower to tune up your technical chops, not a bad time to be doing that, right? So if indeed we're going to push higher, it would be a good time to be really tuned in and have a full community of people that approach the market in a similar way to kind of have it at your back. So not to preach too much on that, but I think that's probably the thing I'm most proud of is the community that we've built and all the support that you'll find in there, whether you're got an idea or you're wondering about a count and could this be valid. You'll find a very supportive community amongst the Trade Devils members here. So not to go on a preaching rant about that, but I just, again, that's what I do, right? When I look at this, I go, what the fuck? I reach out to a sensei and say, okay, let's look at it. Let's break it down swing by swing. What could we have here? At this point in time, and this is very much from Sensei Tutum's influence, it does look like if this is the 4 and if we have completed the 5 here, right? So now the alternate here is that we'd have a 1 and we're working on a 2 and then we're going much lower, which I think is less likely. So I'm gonna take that off. So what's the dominant influence here? Well, the first thing is that coming off of this low, we get a 3. Right, so right off the bat, your first thought is, well, of course, it's corrective, right? And that's kind of where I started. Well, if that's 1, 2, right, which looks so obvious, well, that's not impulsive. This is all corrective. It's just a series of 3s, right? 5s and 3s. So this is the monkey in the wrench. So we got to look at this and say, okay, well, what could this be? Well, if it's ABC, well, certainly one candidate is we've got a W here. Now, as we work through this, and these are rare that we would get a double zigzag in here, but that seems to be the most probable count. So we would go ABC into a W, ABC into an X, ABC into the first completed zigzag here, then ABC into the secondary X, now ABC into the low here, where we've just come up and a couple of ticks in front of the 707. So I put the 707, the 764, the 786, the 887, and the 90 in case this were to turn into some sort of a running flat. So I want to look at the lower pivots since we've broken the golden zone. So what else could be going on here? Well, this series of 3s, you can eliminate any possibility that we have an impulse going in here. I think that's just much less likely. And now we're getting a little reaction here. Now that's not enough to call the low in. But, I mean, we certainly have a technical pattern here that you could look at and identify and say that's complete. Well, if it's complete, what have we completed? Well, again, we'd be working back to the idea that we've completed a 5 here. Now, what are we calling it? Is it a 1? Is it an A? Is it a C? Right now, I think the most probable count is that we've got an A wave going in. So we're working through, at this point, a very complex B. So we'd be considering this a W. The X, this is a candidate to be done, although we could be lower here. We could go down to some of these lower fib levels here. But right now, as it sits here, this is a candidate to send us up towards a Y here. So WX, now we'd be looking for 3 to give us a Y here. Now, there's a few things here that I like about this. So just having drawn that so you get the basic gist of what we're after, that would imply that this is the A wave. We're working on the B. Well, let me just show you a couple of things in here. So first off, you'll note here that I've got in the fib pole here, instead of using the 23.6, I'm using the 272.382 because we're pivoting off of the 707, square root of 50, and the 272.38 also derivative square roots. So I use that for my secondary targets up here rather than the standard 23.6 because the golden zone is broken. Well, so right off the bat, if this little 3 wave here, this has me thinking, okay, well, I've got a swing here. I've got a pivot low to a pivot high here. I've got a secondary pivot. Well, I want to put a pitchfork on that. So if I draw this up here from my pivot low to this W high down to the proposed X low, well, I get a nice little target here. So from there, I can kind of look at this and say, well, if that low holds, right, we know this, right? This is our primary geography, Jesus Christ, it must be Friday. This is our primary geometry here. So if this pivot is going to hold, we know we've got 80% odds of getting to that median line. Now we could get it here, 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 here. We don't, but I'm kind of teeing that up going, well, wouldn't that be nice? We'd be in sync with this resistance up here, right? So we can just kind of draw that off here. Probably that's probably your last order block here. Let's go a little bit lower. There it is. Okay, so there's your order block before we head down. So we'd be right in tune with that, coming back up. Well, here's the low edge of it is right on top of the 272, right? So anywhere in this pivot zone right here, but this is going to have bulls all fired up. So we'd be back at 39.41, and the break of this pivot, bulls will be wetting themselves, right? So careful. Now, see, I'm as bullish as anyone long term, but I don't think that's going to be, well, let me rephrase here. It's a very long shot here and very low probability that we've gone into an ABC 1 and this is a 2, that we'd be coming out of here with a diagonal. Possible? Yeah, it's possible. Probable? It's so improbable I don't even have it here as an alternate, just in the back of my mind. I suppose that's an alternate here. But be careful of that because the count doesn't support it, right? So if we go WX and we get up to this Y, to me that would be setting up the sell here, right? So I mean all the bulls are going to, and the latecomers and retail is going to look to start buying it here. I don't know how many posts I've seen where 41, 42, if we get over that, we're out of the woods. I don't think so. I think all we'd be doing here, let me pull this back here and can I get the whole thing in there? All right, so let's think about where that would put us. Well, right off the bat, we'd be going back here, as I just talked here, last order block before we come down. So we might, okay, well, let's pull from the 2 and just see where we go here. Right, we'd be going right into the 50. Right, we get through it. Oh my God, we're going to 45. We're right to the golden zone. Now, okay, now we break that. What do we do next? We got to go to the top, right? Because all of these are going to be in play. So if that's a completed A wave here and we're looking for the B, I mean, the potential here is that we continue to move higher. I mean, we could hit it here, right? All we know is that the only thing we can say with certainty is that if we get a low down here that is above this pivot and we can get a set of median lines on it, we got 80% odds of getting there, right? So here's 43. Oh my God, bulls are ecstatic, right? I can see the tweets across crypto Twitter now. Oh my God, I called the low. I don't think so. And again, as most will know, I'm as bullish long term as anyone. But I don't think this is I don't think you want to be anticipating that we're headed back to challenge the highs. The count doesn't make sense for that to happen. All right, now, making sense and what's probable. Yeah, is it possible? Of course, anything's possible. But right now, I think you've got to be playing defensively here, that even if we do rotate out of here, that doesn't look like we'd be done. All right, there's just too much. Well, okay, when would I change my mind? 53. 53, I'd change my mind. All right, and say, oh, well, shit, apparently it was and it better be in a 3, because there's no way we're getting out of here with that as a 1 unless we finish it, go with a diagonal. Again, I mean, it's not that it couldn't happen. So understand what I'm saying here. It's just incredibly low probability. But, you know, that doesn't mean it's impossible, right? Nothing is impossible in the market. And you know, as I will be quick to point out, Elliott is not perfect. So you can't expect it to be perfect. But based on what we can see here, the probability is that we are still in a corrective mode here, because there is no disputing that we can, well, you could label a 5 as completed here. Now, whether or not it's done or we've got more lows to put in here to complete this, that remains to be seen. That's an open question. But if we rally out of here, careful. I would not be blowing the bullhorn just yet. I still think there's got to be one more down, and that brings us back to that daily count where we're looking for a retest, you know, at least down towards, if I bring it back up, at least back down towards these lows, or pardon me, towards this pivot structure, which would give us here. So then we'd be putting in the 4. Now note, right, I should emphasize here, I am in log scale. We'd be putting in the 4. This count would be off here. We'd be into the 4 right here. There's the 5. Here's the 4 to come up right there. So we'd be in between 22, 19. So that would set us up just perfectly, and that just tees us up for the launch here. And now we put a target up here, right? So back to the median line. Wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, this is what I'm anticipating right there. So bring it down, load up hard here. Not with leverage, but this every available asset, right? If we get a chance to buy it here, I'm all in. Without leverage. But I'll take the risk here, and even with some drawdown here, I would not be uncomfortable there. Now, it remains to be seen if we get the opportunity to be a buyer here, but I would be careful about it. So the expectation is we're going up to this B wave, and we're coming down here for this C wave, and then we go up and we finish the whole thing. It just boy, the geometry just plays beautifully. Now, is it going to play that perfectly? Well, we don't know, but that's all you can do is set up your risk-reward parameters, set up the most probable path that you deduce from working through rules and guidelines, right? If you're an Elliottician, I mean, you would be anticipating the next move is up. We got to get 3 down, and that tees us up for the big push here, and that would put us, towards the fall of this year. So while we go through all of the FUD and all of the uncertainty and all the questions about regulation, which seems to be what's really overhanging the market, is what are regulators going to do? We got the Fed. Jesus Christ, we got Powell saying that crypto won't be necessary if we have a digital dollar. Fuck. How is that coming out of the Fed chairman's mouth? I mean, that's hard to understand. I mean, clearly he doesn't understand. They are essentially just reiterating to the market that they are going to continue to print money as long as it takes to get us out of here. So what's the holdup, right? Why aren't institutions swarming and just all over Bitcoin? Why aren't they in here buying with both hands? Because the regulatory overhang, nobody is sure they're not going to buy it until there's clarity here. In my view, that's the ongoing problem. I think we're resolving now through the China situation. Some of those miners are back online. I mean, if you follow the on-chain fundamentals and what's happening there, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that the movement from China miners, from the miners getting out of China and relocating, and much of that, transforming over to miners in North America, that seems to be resolving itself. So why aren't we rallying? It continues to be, in my opinion, it seems to be that it's regulatory uncertainty, and they're not going to come until they get clarity. So that seems to play into the idea that we're going to, perhaps there's a little rally here and then we drift lower into the fall, and maybe by that time we get some regulatory certainty, or at least less uncertainty than we have now, and then we're prone to rally, and the Elliott count will look like the most obvious thing in the history of trading. But that's, what's my target up there? 128. All right, that's a lucky number for me, so I'll keep that target. Okay, I don't think there's much else here to add on this. This is a challenging countdown here. Really, it's kind of interesting, right? So this is, I take you back to, this is the fun part, right? Trying to figure out the puzzle, right? Can you get a count here that works? One thing you can't get is an impulse here, right? So what's your next alternative? Because it's not impulsive. So what does that leave, right? If it's not impulsive, it's got to be corrective, and this is a big series of threes. So we just need the pivot here. Now, we don't know that that's it, but that's a reasonable spot. We can complete the whole thing down here. There is a little bit of fib relationship in here that's interesting. Let's see. I'll wrap with this. Did I have that? Yeah, here it is. So I'm taking the length of the W, and I'm drawing back to the X here and projecting forward. We just clear the 100 here. Just am I right on that? I think I am. Yep, I am. Let's get you down right there. Okay, so we just clear it, right? So it leaves the long shot here, which I think is less likely since we clear this by a tick. There's the possibility here that we could have a diag, right? So we could be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? It's possible, right? It's ugly, but possible. So that the implication would be that's the one of well, shit, what would we be doing? That would be the one of the fifth. So we'd be now retracing into the 2. So we'd have 1, 2, right? This is the alternate count, right, that would have the 5 much lower. So we'd be going 1, 2, and this would, pardon me, this would be 1, 2, this would be the 1 of the third of the fifth. Do you follow me here? So impulse down into the 1, 3 into the corrective 2, leading diagonal into the 1 wave of the third wave. So this would be, the anticipation here would be, oh, shit, come here. We'd be coming back this way, here into the 2, 1, 2 of the 3 before we head down. But again, it just doesn't look right, doesn't smell right. I don't think that's what's happening here. That's my opinion, right? I plan to trade accordingly. I don't know if our low is in here, but it's certainly, we've got a reasonable contender. What I've got down here, momentum still negative here. Oh, and see the last thing. Oh, I drew this up for members the other day. So this is last week. I was just showing this is very simple approach. If you want to keep the Elliott out of it, if you look at that Elliott and go, oh my God, what a cluster F that is. That doesn't interest me. Well, it's not a requirement. This is as we showed it last week. So here's the swing, right, just a little shy of target. We got our swing down. We retraced to the 50. I just drew up from the swing here. Here's the volume profile. We just come up right, just a tick under the POC of that entire move. Now down we go. So here's the entry right here. I put the little red arrow on it. So here cum delta goes negative. Now, you know, cum delta is, these are these are the market orders, right? So it has its place. But what you'll notice here is the RSI, we get pretty dramatic divergence down here, and it looks like we're going to come up short. So it's one more, you know, well, let's wait and see it here, right? We know since they use this and they use this, now we're right back to the 50. If that's going to come down again, then we're looking down here for the secondary target. So the first one would hit here, second one would hit here. So based on that, you can sort of look at that and say, well, sure looks to me like this is a contender to come down and hit that. That's going to put us at 30K again. So would you short it here? Well, it's not yet. Not yet, right? So note here, this is what we retraced to the 50. Now, as we started to roll over, it wasn't until we broke right here. Oh, was it? Well, Cume goes negative right here. The RSI starts to break 10 right here. So I'd probably move that over a hair. So right here, here's the trade. We're coming down here right now. If you got this, that's a pretty good kickback. So if you didn't take profit here, you'd be looking here as a potential add to keep that, just for that run to continue to go, right? So we get swing 50, swing 50, swing. We'll see, right? You trade them till they break, right? So if this comes down and breaks, well, of course, then you'd go back one, right? You'd be looking at this one. Can we break this one? Now we break this. Now you've got a true trend change. You'd be on the other side of the 200, right? All of this flips, but right now, no reason to anticipate that we wouldn't go down and find that low unless we break. So lots of ways to skin the cat, right? Ours is just one, but as I was kind of opining on, the value of our community is all the people in here. Listen, I get trade ideas from members all the time, right? Monday and Tuesday, we let members, well, obviously members, this is for YouTubers. Members will post all of their alts and then all of their traditionals on Monday and Tuesday. I review them on Monday and Tuesday. I get tons of ideas from there. Some of my best trades of the year has come from things that I would not have been looking at, right? Because you can't look at everything. That's the advantage. That's why we do that, right? Not only do we get to kind of counsel new traders as they're developing their TA skills, but we get tons of ideas. Right? You can't track everything, right? So to have hundreds of members all approaching the market the same way with the same eye for setups, there's real value there. So I would encourage you guys to consider that as one of the benefits of joining. And with that, I guess I will wrap it up. Looks like the market is selling off again. Okay, so I'll wrap it there, guys. You'll have a good weekend. I think that's all the Elliott we can apply here. Now it's going to be very interesting what happens here. Where's our new low, right? So if we just focus on trying to look for that low, once we get this pivot, it would be certainly, this is a contender. Right, but now if we just back to what we were just looking at, certainly there's a possibility we're going down to the 764, 786, right? So this could all drop a little bit lower, and then this just comes a little bit lower, right? It doesn't really change the count. It just means the A, B, and the C is not yet done. All right, guys, there you go. With that, that's plenty to chew on. I hope you'll give us a try. Yeah. As I said, you can always join us for free and get a feel for things. You get the white belt for free as a part of that, and that'll give you some idea of what the content is like as you're going through the belt system. All right, guys, with that, I'll wrap it. You guys have a good weekend. Members, we'll be back on Monday to review alts, and you guys take it easy.